cousin. Going.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Faith Mathias. I'm sitting here today with my dad, Don Mathias, and Marilyn and Jessica Mathias. And I thought we'd spend a Sunday afternoon talking to Dad a little bit about his memories of his childhood and his early days and his life in general. Okay.
Go ahead.
You forgot to mention the cameraman.
Oh.
There you go.
And behind the scenes is Jeff Marker.
It's in production.
Well, what I thought we'd start off with, Dad, is start with your childhood and what you remember. You were born January 17th, 1917.
I don't remember that.
And can you tell me where you were born
At Dundee.
at? At Dundee.
Mm-hmm.
Were you born at Oaks Lake or not?
Yeah, at the farm.
At the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And you were the sixth child, right?
Yeah.
And do you remember any of your early years, like any of your early childhood memories?
Well, not the first year or two.
First year.
No, I don't remember any of that. Well, we just went to a country school out there.
Yeah,
That when I got big enough, we had all kinds of chores to do.
yeah.
And there wasn't too much time to play. We had what we needed, I guess,
Mhm.
and that's the way everybody was at that time. And kids grew up. They learned to milk the cows, feed the chickens, and throw down hay, and so on. Pretty early in life.
So you had all livestock and plus farming to do.
Yeah, they had livestock and farming.
And then, how long did you live in Dundee for?
Well, I lived in Dundee. We were married for 4 years before I moved up here,
Mhm.
and then I come up here.
But did you graduate in Waterloo, Iowa?
Yeah, and I got from high school.
And what brought you there from Dundee?
What's that?
Well, how did you get from Dundee to Waterloo, Iowa?
Oh, my brother and sister, being with Doc, brother, were working there, and I went down there, and you had to either ride a bus or board in school in those days. You didn't have a bus.
Uh-huh.
You had a board, you didn't have a bus. And so I went to school down there, and then I worked part of the summer down there too.
Ah.
What'd you do as a job when you worked there?
Chimneys manufacturing. All they made there was wash machine wringers at the time. Now they're outdated. And at that time, I think they made 27 different kinds of wash machine wringers.
Wow. What was your job?
Oh, either on the assembly line or rivet press, where you want to be careful, get your fingers out of the way, or you wouldn't have any. And once in a while I got in on a good job unloading steel, big sheets. That was a good job. I think I still have a cut here in my arm where it hit. But it was, those days, pretty good, you know. You got about 50 cents an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, that's about what they paid. First, they didn't even pay that the first week or two, and then they started paying, and they went in, they had the wages set at 50 cents an hour. So you could put in a lot of hours. First day I started working there, I think I put in 14 hours standing on the cement floor.
Was there income tax withheld from your wage then?
What was that? At that time?
Was there?
No.
No income tax? No Social Security?
Very low income too.
Very little income tax. Okay.
Yeah. 50 cents an hour don't figure up too fast.
So you were 16, 17 years old when you were doing this?
I was about 15, 16.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you remember your grandparents?
I remember my mother's dad better than the rest of them. He was crippled and blind, not crippled but blind, partially blind. He got it in a runaway of horses. And he got tangled up in the lines or in something and drug him for quite a ways. He lost most of his eyesight. But he stayed with us for quite a while. And I was pretty young then. He couldn't talk anything but German around the house. But I could never talk German. But when I was outside with him, we could talk like the Dickens. He must have been able to talk a lot English too, because otherwise he couldn't talk English. I couldn't understand him when he went in the house. I didn't know what he was saying then. But when him and I were together, we could understand him. You know?
So he lived with you when you were young.
Yeah.
And then you were telling me last night that your father was from southern Minnesota.
Yeah, my dad was born not far from Heron Lake, Minnesota, and our farm was about 12, 13 miles from Heron Lake.
Ah.
So it's right in the area.
And your mother was from Wisconsin?
Well, originally that's where they were, but she was born and raised in Wisconsin. I think Barron, Wisconsin. And then they moved down to southern Minnesota. First they were up here for a while, in someplace here, her family. And then they moved down to southern Minnesota. And that's where my mother and dad were married. They were married in 1900. So that picture I got in the basement will be 100 years old pretty soon.
Oh.
And and so with the farm where you're at, where Rick and Marilyn are,
Mm-hmm.
that'll be, they bought that when they first were married, 1900. So that should be a century farm in another couple, 3 years.
Sure.
So,
And so did they live up here when they were first married? Or
yeah,
for a short time?
yeah, Laura and Ed were born here.
Mm-hmm.
And they were a doctor in Graceville with the doctor there at that time. And he's been there, he was there a long time, and then his son took over in Graceville as a doctor. That's been years ago. I don't quite remember all them years.
That was before you came.
Yeah. 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 But I knew the doctor that they had, he was still there when I come up here.
Huh.
Mhm.
Then when did they move back to Oaks Lake?
I can't tell you exactly the year, but there must have been probably 1907, 8 in that area. They were married 1900. So I suppose they were probably lived up here for seven years or say 7, 8 years. I don't know for sure.
And then did they buy the farm on Oaks Lake when they moved back?
Yeah. And then they kept this one too up here.
Did they farm both at the same time?
No, they never farmed up here when they farmed down
I
there.
wouldn't think so.
Take
So
2
did they
days
rent out the farm then?
Yeah, it was rented out. Art Rinke, in fact, lived on there at one time.
Art Rinke.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think some of the Rinkes were born there, some of the kids.
Really?
I'm not sure, but I think they were. Yeah, Art Rinke lived there, and then I don't know who lives there. And Rena and Ernie come up in
Probably
36 or 7.
here's a picture of 1937.
Yeah,
That looks like me. And here's the
I see
back.
that. I see that. Yeah, that's the old house there. That's about the time I think they got rid of it. That's the old house. That's in Dumont now. You know, Piper.
Yes,
lived in
yes. But where was it situated on the farm? Where was it located?
About where the old house was built.
Oh,
You
that
know, the
close.
one that you
Okay.
had took out of there. It was right in that area.
Oh, okay.
I right in that spot there.
Mhm.
So then,
Now are these the same houses here?
yes, I think they are. This is one reunion, that one there. I'm not sure about that one. That don't look like the right house, but it
It
must
doesn't
be.
look like it. It looks a lot, yeah.
No, I don't believe it is.
And there's the barn.
Yeah, there's the barn. That's the one that was there.
Sure.
That's the one that Piker lived in Dumont.
Sure.
It's empty now, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
So. Then, how long were you in Waterloo? Getting
Oh,
back
I
to
was there a
that.
couple years off and on.
And then you moved back to Dundee?
Well, I really never moved myself into Waterloo, but I spent some time there, a couple, 3 years.
Outside of Waterloo?
Huh?
Outside of Waterloo?
No, in Waterloo.
Oh, okay. And then you moved back to Oaks Lake?
Yeah, I come back to Oaks Lake. My dad got sick right after I got out of high school. So then I was chief cook and bottle washer, chore boy, and everything. We had milk. We milked about 6, 7, 8 head of cattle. Besides that, we had about 40 head with calves and stuff. Then we had a couple hundred hogs and a couple 300 chickens. And so in the wintertime, it took me, I'd get done with chores in the morning about 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, and I'd start doing them again about 3:30 in the afternoon. So you get the hay pushed down for them and so on for night. So you kept busy all winter. Besides that, if you had snow in your driveway, well, you scooped that out. You didn't have the blower.
What about, did your brothers help at all, or was it just you and your dad?
Well, my mother, when at that time they were, Doc was, I think, in Waterloo, and Ed was down in Peoria, Illinois. So at that time, so I didn't see much of any of my family around at that time.
And that must have been about the time you met Mom.
Well, it was a year or so after that. My dad passed away in 37, I think it is. And then I met Mom a year later, so, you know.
And did you really meet her at the communion
Why,
rail?
Well, of course.
That's what he's always maintained. He met her at the communion rail.
So that's an official record, huh?
That's the place to meet. Better, you shouldn't be meeting them out on the dance floor and carrying on.
Was that the first time you saw her then?
I remember seeing her a little bit, and I don't know. I knew, her brother and her dad was in Dundee all ever since I can remember, And I never really knew the family, but I knew her brother pretty well. He had a beer joint there, and her dad was there, and so I finally. My mother put her gas down in the basement with an old wash machine with a gas motor on it. And she wasn't feeling very good for a few months. And a gal from Dundee come out and helped her, for a while. Anyhow, finally she come out and she left a word out that there's somebody in Dundee who would like to meet me.
Oh, really?
And that was
Well,
Laura.
that's interesting. Really? That's how the word got to you, huh?
Yeah.
Is that how it happens?
Otherwise,
Jessica?
Otherwise, I never noticed girls,
So she was the first girl, huh?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
How long did you date before you knew that she was the one? Did you know immediately?
We must dated 2.5, 2 years. 2 years at least, maybe a little longer.
And you married her shortly after she graduated from high school. Was it true that Nod and Adeline had to chaperone you on your dates?
Not We went with him once, I think.
Oh.
Soon get rid of him.
So how was Mom's father? Was she strict, or did you pick up from anything with her parents?
No, I got along good with them. I mean, I didn't have no hurt. They didn't give me a rough time, and I didn't give them a rough time. We got along all right. Her mother, she couldn't remember Donald, nor her dad. He, every time come in, like, oh, here's Daniel.
Daniel.
Yeah.
Not Donald.
That was always Daniel. I never told him the difference. Didn't make no difference what they called me. Daniel and Buck kind of go together.
Speaking of Buck, you told me that you don't know how you got your nickname.
No, I don't. I've had it ever since I was a little kid.
When is the first time you recollect, you remember being
Oh,
called
God,
Buck?
I remember at least I was 4 years old and knew I had the nickname.
So it was that early in life that you were nicknamed?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you have maybe teeth or something, like buck teeth? Or why did they call you Buck? I mean, that's kind of an unusual name.
I don't know.
Young Buck or...
That's a lot of money.
I don't know. I don't know how they got that name.
No one ever explained it to you?
No, I don't know if anybody could. I don't know
Isn't
why.
that unusual?
I don't know.
But
I just don't know. But that's funny. Up here there was Buck Kenny, and then who the heck was another one up here for a while? There's another Buck. Buck Kenny, who's the other one?
Oh, there's Bucky Hoffman.
Yeah,
But
but
who
there was
knows?
another one. Buck Kenny, and then there was something else. Who the heck was that? Nicknamed Buck too up here.
Huh.
Interview about over?
Are you done yet?
You haven't gotten married yet, Dad.
Oh,
You still have to get married and have 7
well,
kids.
I got married and
That
had
takes a
7
while.
kids. Now it's over.
Oh. Well, where'd you take Mom on the honeymoon?
Oh, we went to Waterloo, Iowa, and Peoria, Illinois, and oh hell, we had $100 or $150 to spend, and that was about it too.
And then you went to Oaks Lake
Mhm.
and lived on the farm
Yeah.
with your mother, right?
Well, yeah, she was there part time. She was there and met Laura's too quite long.
Ah. And then you had, about a year later, Judy came along,
Yeah,
and then Rick.
yeah, that was about partner 3 years between Rick and Judy. Rick was real small, about 10 months old when we come up here. When we moved up here. In fact, Hester Tracy, where we were moving up and getting busy there, when she come walking across the road carrying Rick.
Oh, really? You had wandered over there?
Yeah, and she,
Huh.
we just started looking for him. Here she comes. Did you lose somebody? She said. And that's the first time we remember Hester Tracy too,
Meaning Esther.
And she come over with him. But I guess it didn't make no difference. They were together all the time, back and forth across the road. They were all, like they said to me, one time we were over to Stubbs and the kids were all over there having a lot of fun playing around. And there were some other kids there and said to me, how do you know if you got them, the right ones washed, how do you know when you got them washed up at night, who sleeps where? I says, there's nothing to it. I says, I just would count and wash so many and the rest I sent over to Stubbs.
And what made you move up here from Oaks Lake?
Well, I don't know. I knew this country for a long time before that. In fact, I plowed it when we and Ernie come up here. I plowed that with it. That time we plowed Russian thistles under. I went over a pheasant with a John Deere D tractor out in the field. He couldn't get out of them. He couldn't fly, And by gosh, I ran over him with the tractor. I couldn't believe
Were
it.
you breaking up prairie then?
No,
or
it
it had
was
been farmed?
seeded down. and they had a terrible dry year.
Oh.
Just terrible dry. And then got it plowed under, and it plowed good. And then about the time I leave, then the roots were pulling out, and they're plugging their plows all the time. They left them get too ripe, you know. When I got them, they were kind of green, and they plowed under, just thick as a hair in a dog.
Thistles. Oh, okay.
The Russian thistle. They're the type that blow around when you get, you know, the big
Okay.
one.
Mm-hmm.
But they were so tight that they didn't get very big, you know, there were so many.
Mm.
But then afterwards, why, they started blowing, you know, and then they had a terrible time with them. But then they plowed good when I was there.
Here's your house
Mm-hmm.
when you first got it. You mind me asking how much it cost you?
Oh, God, that's a pretty personal treasure. There's all maple floor in the bottom, and you buy that, you can't even buy it now. And there was even maple floor upstairs, but the downstairs was a thick floor. By the time I got done with it, I suppose it was about $4,500.
Wow.
4,500.
Yeah, without the upstairs finished. When I finished the upstairs about 3 years later, it cost me half as much to finish the 2 rooms as it did go out build the house.
Now, what year did you build that house? Early 40s?
Yeah, 40. When did I come up here? 45 was the first year I was up here. Yeah. We started building at 44.
44.
In the fall.
Okay.
And we got pretty well done when we moved in when we got up here in March.
Did you build your own house?
No, I got them from Donley.
And how many acres of land did you have? You had a half section.
Huh?
How much did you have?
I just farmed that quarter at home, and then I farmed a half a section of Loris there.
What was farmland selling for, Buck, at the time you moved up here?
$30 to $40, $50 an acre. From 20 to 50.
20 to 50. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you should have bought a whole bunch of it there.
Oh.
Like I said, if you buy quarter land for $500 down, instead of building that house, I should have bought 8 quarters of land, and the machinery, I should have bought 10, 12 quarters of land and just sat down and been paid for it in no time. Yeah. I could have just went out and worked for somebody in the spring and the fall and got grocery money and left it set, and it would have been, because I had enough that I paid for the damn land and paid for the house.
We'll probably say that 50 years from now, too. Why didn't we buy more land?
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you never know.
Rate of
You never know.
inflation.
You never know that. When I was down in Arizona here not too many years ago, one morning I went and made tea time at the golf course, and 2 guys were talking there. Each one says, I remember when you could buy this land for $10 an acre, right here where we're standing. He said, no, everybody thought if you buy an acre of that, you're crazy, you know. He said, now look at it, now what it's worth. He said, it's worth thousands of dollars an acre now. But a lot of them got hooked on that. They were high priced, and then they bought land and it didn't go over. It kind of slowed up for a few years, and boy, there's a lot of them that lost a lot of money on land there too. Didn't have the money to pay for it, to hang on to it. If they could have hung on to it, they'd been all right, but they overstretched themselves.
Did you farm by yourself? That must have been rather hard.
Why?
Well, I can't imagine doing that all by yourself.
First couple of years I did. I'd help Ernie, and Ernie helped me back too sometimes, you know. Well, that's the way that went. About over now.
You only have 2 kids.
You only have 2 kids yet, Judy and Rick. You gotta keep going.
Oh, well,
Then Donna.
no, Rick was born down in, he was born in Worthington. So was Judy. And Then Donna was born in Graceville,
Oh, she was.
and all the kids except Michelle was born in Graceville. Michelle was born here.
You were born in Graceville? Oh, I didn't know that. Michael? Wow.
Yeah, yeah, they were all born there. In fact, Graceville used to be have a lot more doctor they did here in town. And in fact, Alvin Hennon's, I believe, old house up here was a hospital at one time. I think that's the one. You know, right up here, 2 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the one that was a hospital. And there they had that hospital, the part of it, the older part, that was all built for so long as I can remember up here. It was not quite old then, you know.
What kind of a car did you drive when you first got married? But
Well, I had a little Willis,
a what?
little Willis coupe.
Willis coupe.
You know, you never seen one of
What
them.
do they look like now? Is that it?
No, this is a big Buick. What the hell you talking about?
Wow, I know my stuff.
So what is a Willis coupe?
It was a little 4-cylinder,
A car.
yeah, car.
Okay. What did it
And
resemble?
good on mileage, so on. Hard on oil after a little while.
How much was gas at that time? Price
Oh,
per
God,
gallon?
25 cents a gallon.
Oh,
Yeah. That was tax and all.
that's no.
It was, in fact, my dad bought a bunch of fuel one time, put it in barrels, and in the wintertime, I don't know how it come, and it was diesel. It wasn't diesel fuel, you know, but they burned the others in John Deere tractors at low fuel, and I think he paid 7 or 8 cents a gallon for it.
Mm.
And then, of course, corn was probably, at one time, here they had corn price here at 25 cents a bushel, and 25 cents less, no, it was 15 cents a bushel, 15 less on shelled, if it wasn't shelled. In here, 15, so you give it away then. Now, Rusty Housel took a load of hogs down for somebody here, I don't remember who it was, South St. Paul, and Rusty was in the trucking business, you know, and the guy got back that with the yardage and the commission and the trucking, they figured the price of the hogs, and the guy owed him $40-some more. So he said he wrote back, he says, I haven't got any money, but I got more hogs. That's the last he heard of it. Cost them more to ship them than they got for them.
No kidding.
You know, it was really tough years after a while.
You lived on the farm for 31 years, approximately?
Well, I lived on the farm ever since we got married, really.
Yeah, but the farm out in Dumont.
40, I think it was 40.
Was it 40-some years?
No, it was 30.
30.
I was just trying to think when I come up here, 46, I think was the first year.
And then you moved in here 76,
Yeah,
so 30 years? Was it hard for you to leave the farm?
No, not really. I farmed yet for a couple of years after I was in town. But I come and I hung up my hat and I says, well, I'm home. Took Lola a little while. She stayed out there. She didn't get in town for another 45 minutes after we hit. And there was everything else was cleaned out. There's nothing there. But she stayed there about a half an hour, 45 minutes.
And you said your retirement years were your best years.
Yeah, they were.
The happiest time, the easiest time of your life?
Huh?
The happiest and easiest time of your life?
I don't know. I said if I could go back when I was 65 and retired, that'd be a good time.
It's a good time to retire, huh?
Good time.
Mm-hmm.
we had good times out on the farm too.
Mm-hmm.
What was the hardest time when you look back at your life? What was the most difficult time?
Oh, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go through the Depression?
You must have lived through
Well,
that.
when I was little, it was really the Depression when at that time. When I moved up here, things were going along pretty good, you know. But there for a while, you couldn't give away cattle or hogs. That was in the 32 and 33 years.
Early 30s. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was real bad. And people with no work, no income. There was no such thing as income, you know, that you could get help of any kind. No unions, no nothing. Finally, they got the unions started at that time. And people were just hungry, and soup lines, they called them then.
Mm-hmm.
So people off the farm at least had the milk and could butcher and raise potatoes, and they didn't need much, you know. You take a case of eggs, and even if they were a dime a dozen, you know, you can buy the few things you did need. But I don't know how they made out in towns. I couldn't figure out how they do it. But I remember we had a neighbor there, southern Minnesota, when I was a kid, and it was about harvest time, and anyhow, him and my dad was talking one time. He says, yeah. He said, I own 3 farms. He says, and I don't know. He says, I ain't going to get enough off them to pay the damn taxes this year. He says, I don't know what I'm going to hang on to. But he did. I guess he did. He did hang on to it.
Mm-hmm.
But they were really tough. He didn't have no protection of any kind. There was nothing done until Roosevelt got elected as president, and he put the things kind of together so people could get at least a living, you know. Put people back to work, started programs, so on, which seemed like a lot of money, but they've done things, you know, that helped the country, you know, so on and so forth. Building roads or anything, you know, they do something.
What things in your lifetime have you seen that have amazed you the most in all your years? Go on in the world or events.
I really can't tell you which one amazed me most, because you look back and a lot of things have changed so much, and it's all for the better.
It is.
Yeah. I'm going to have a coffee break pretty soon.
Okay, go ahead.
The scale of farming. What did you start farming with, Buck?
Well,
Just to give us an idea of the scale from where it's gone.
when I was a kid, my dad had I plowed with a D John Deere tractor.
D. John Deere,
The
okay.
old D John Deere.
Mhm.
And we had that, and the rest of the work, seeding, plant corn, cultivating, that was all done with horses.
I was wondering if you had gotten
Oh,
in
yeah.
on horses.
Oh, yeah.
Really? A team of horses?
Whole
Or
team, 2-row cultivator, you'd have 4 horses on.
Hmm.
And I never done hardly any plowing, little, with plows and horses. But on one bottom they'd have 3 horses, and 2 bottom they'd have 5, 3 bottom they had 7 horses. And that was terrible. There were very few had a 3-bottom plow.
So did you walk behind the horse,
No,
the
no,
implement then, or did you ride?
They'd ride then.
Really?
And they had to be a little careful.
Oh.
Hit rock in that country down south, and you'd probably fly into the levers and stuff on them. But it was, then later, they started plowing with the tractors, you know.
Mhm.
John Deere's, they all had, most of them John Deere, and then the old International, they made a couple of them similar to it. And they were all pretty damn awkward and so on. Putting all of them work. I plowed where you live now. I plowed that for the first time. Before and Ernie moved up here. I plowed that. I was up here and I done pretty good with 3-bottom plow. I averaged over about 23 acres a day. That's a lot of rounds with a 3-bottom 14-inch
Now,
plow.
Laura Hempen often talked about when she came up here, there weren't any ditches, and they had to make the ditches.
Well, I don't think she remembers that.
Okay, but maybe she talked about
My folks
a
had it.
story
My folks
from
did
her
it.
parents.
My folks did
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
because there wasn't.
it was
any
just
home.
prairie, right?
Yeah, they said they used to cut from your place now straight across Prairie, Ketty Corner to Herman.
Okay.
That old mill in Herman ground flour, you know, the
Mhm.
flour mill. Ground. They take their wheat in and get it ground and for the
Oh.
winter supply of bread and flour.
Oh.
That's still, I think it's still there.
I
The
think
old
so.
building back
In
there.
the corner, yeah.
And then they put grain in it for a while, use it for storage. There's quite a lot of room in their storage.
Mm.
But then they got so they couldn't use it anymore. You had to shovel the grain out of the truck. They had a hoist there, but they only get it about so high and the roof was there, you know. And so it didn't do much good. But that's where they said there was nothing there, just prairie all the way over.
Amazing.
There was a strip of prairie on, a virgin prairie on Loris too. Way up north by the 80, you know,
Mhm.
and it was laying this way, about 20 acres, I suppose. When I first come up there, I plowed that up after.
So you were the first one to plow that up?
That piece, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That 80 north?
No, it was on the half a section of Loris. But it run this way,
Oh,
and it was along the 80 of Loris.
okay.
It was in there. And it
First
was
one to break
about-
that up, huh?
I think it was about 20 acres in there.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was the first time it was ever plowed.
Amazing.
Now, the only ones that I know of is, there isn't much of it around anymore that isn't plowed.
No. No, it's mostly farmed. Hmm.
So,
I want-
go ahead.
I'm wondering about the kids, like raising 7 kids. Who was the most difficult, and were you a strict parent, and how were your parenting skills and all that stuff?
I don't want to start a fight.
Who was the best kid? You can say Faye.
We'll edit this from the
Yeah.
video, right?
I'll turn the camera
Wow.
on and talk.
Hey, they all give us a little trouble once in a while, which they can expect, but nothing ever serious. Nothing real serious. Once in a while, they all had to have a paddling or two, but they all behaved pretty good. Not too bad.
Oh,
I-
Was it? Well, I don't know. Like right now, I mean, it's Jonathan and I mean, that seems like almost a lot. I mean, like it seems like a full family, but 7 kids. I mean, was that? I suppose that was the norm back then. You have a lot of kids like that. And,
Well, Gracie's over there had 5,
mhm.
you know, and so on and so forth. I don't know, when they come, you can't hardly send them back.
True.
Now,
Uh,
why don't you shut that off for a while and we'll have some coffee?
take a break and we'll have a coffee.
Yeah.
Okay,
It'll say pause, Tim.
sounds good.
Rude, you know that?
Hey, that's my shirt. Oh, sorry. That was cool. Go ahead. Use it.
That is so gross.
Hi.
Hi.
Back here, right now! Oh, you guys are in trouble. We're out of here. No, dude, you gotta help us find him. The hell with that!